Okay, so I want to get something out there. We have a huge issue in the United States, an issue that needs to be addressed. Somebody needs to address it. I don't know who, because apparently I've called everybody all the way up to the freaking White House, and apparently nobody has any power over these people. They are pretty much their own judge, jury, and executioner. And I'm talking about the Child Protective Services. They violate our constitutional rights all the way around. They violate our right to face our accusers. They allow anonymous calls to come in, and that is a violation of our constitutional rights. We have a right under the Constitution to face our accusers, but how are we supposed to face our accusers if they allow these anonymous calls to come in? Anybody and everybody can just call into the hotline and make up bogus allegations just because they're angry or because they don't like the way you're raising your child, because they think you should raise your child the way they see fit. They think you should educate your child the way they see fit. They think you should have the same religious beliefs as them. My situation, I have a crazy sister who is jealous and has always been jealous of me. Our entire lives, she's always, as a child, she used to chase me around the house with knives and try to kill me, try to off me, because she was so jealous of me. She hated me. She constantly stole my boyfriends, would sleep with my boyfriends, everything. The whole 9 yards. She would do all kinds of shit to me as a child. And then when I got older and had kids of my own, we were in Child Protective Services at 5 years old because my older sister, April, my other sister, she decided to claim that my dad, which was her stepdad, molested her. Well, first she tried to say he raped her, which they proved that she was not raped because she was still a virgin and there was no signs of abuse whatsoever. So she decided he touched me, he did this, he did that. With no evidence, they ended up using intimidation, the police did, and went after him, and he ended up being charged as a sex offender. We were put in foster care. Abusive foster cares, by the way. These people were, it was a nightmare. I was 5 years old. They forced me into diapers because I was traumatized because they picked us up from school and said we were going on a picnic with our mom. And next thing we know, we're being dropped off at some stranger's house. And these people would tell us our mom didn't want us. They hated that my mom hated us. And that's why we were there. I started wetting the bed because I was traumatized. I was mentally and physically traumatized by this whole situation. And so they put me in Pampers. Called me a stupid baby. And just called me all kinds of names. Told me I was pathetic and just was hateful. I'd get hungry, so I'd go into the pantry. They locked me in the pantry because they caught me in there getting food. They would take everything from us. They would lock me outside and tell me the devil was going to get me because I was a bad child. And that they would also tell me that's the reason why my mom didn't want me, because I was a bad child. I was 5, people. But these people were horrible, horrible people. And when we went to the Child Protective Services, tried to tell our caseworker said we were just saying that because we wanted to go home. Well, we were telling the truth, but yes, we did want to go home because we wanted to go home with our mother and father who never abused us. We were we were poor, but they never abused us. It doesn't make sense. I'm just so freaking confused at how the government has more control over our children than we do. We don't have a say in shit. They say we have a constitution and we have all these rights and, that we're a free country and all this and that, but where's it at? I don't see it. They allow, to me, it's a terrorist organization going around stealing children and selling them to the highest bidder. They get these bonuses and all this money, for taking our children away. How is that right? They shouldn't be paid to take our children away. I guarantee you that they will stop taking our children away if they're not being funded. If they have no money, they're not going to come in and take our children. They don't have that incentive anymore. My constitutional rights were violated through this whole thing. I've been dealing with CPS since I was 5 years old. 5. And even growing up, my own sister, she would threaten my mom with CPS because she knew she could control her that way. And so she would threaten my mom with CPS. Anytime my mom didn't do something for her, she would, I'm going to call CPS. And that's what they do. They tell you. They put it in your head that if your parents don't let you do what you want to do, to call them, and they'll force them to do it. And that's the situation that's happening with me too right now. I have 4 children. I gave birth to my first child when I was 16. He's now 18 years old. He's a good kid. I raised all my kids good. They have good family values. They're very responsible, polite. You know, they have everything they need. They're very intelligent children. I do homeschool my children because I refuse to put them in that bogus public school that teaches them a bunch of bullshit and that works for the CPS. It's crap. I mean, we give birth to these children. We make the decision to have these children. We make that decision. And then we give birth to these children and then we raise them. But yet they come into our homes as strangers and tell us that they know the best interest of our children. Half of these people don't even know the first thing about children. Half of them don't even have children. Most of these people come out of school with degrees in music. They come out of school with, history degrees, and they don't even have psychology or forensic psychology or any kind of forensic background whatsoever, or any kind of background in law. Nothing. They don't even know really the development of children. And then they base what they do know, they base every child in the same category, and that's not how it is. Every single child is unique to growth, to, what they like. They each have their own unique personalities, and they don't grow the same, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And then they want to tell us, oh, well, you're bad parents. Why? I'm a bad parent because I don't believe the same thing you believe in. Because I don't want to raise my kids the way you want me to raise my kids. Children need discipline. But if you so much as spank your child nowadays, it's abuse. And for all you Christians out there, spare the rod, spoil the child. It doesn't mean to literally spare the rod and then spoil the child. It means if you spare the rod, if you don't discipline your child, they're going to be spoiled. I mean, it's common sense. You know what I mean? It's common sense. You don't spare the rod and spoil the child. Child needs discipline. They need structure. They, need to be taught. And I do agree, there are some parents out there that don't need their children. But you don't send an organization in that's going to completely disrupt the freaking family and destroy the family and target you as this horrible person because they don't like you, and you take that child from that parent and give it to another family member, but not through the Child Protective Services. Let that parent decide on where they want their child to be. I mean, that child deserves to be with their family. They do not deserve to be ripped away like mere produce out of a garden. I mean, that's what we are. The parents, we're a giant garden, and our children is the produce. And they're just going and plucking them whenever they run out of resources, which is our children. Our children are dying in the care of these people. Our children go into the system with no problems. They don't have mental issues. They don't have physical issues. They don't have emotional issues. They don't have behavioral issues. And then when we do get our kids back, they're so fucked up. It's horrible. My kids have never been abused a day in their life. Never. Not by me or my husband. My daughter's 16 now. I have 4 children. My oldest is 18, my daughter's 16, and then I have 2 other boys that are 15. One just turned 15 and 13. I raised them. They're good kids. I spoilt my daughter a little too much, more than I should have. But I raised my children to be open and honest. And sadly, I taught my kids a few other traits too that my daughter is now using against me with the help of my psychopathic sister. But it all started, I'm going to kind of tell the story a little bit. My story. Because it's important. I mean, so in 2010, my sister called CPS on us. That wasn't the only time. And we got fed up with it. So in 2011, we got tired of dealing with CPS and the police, because my sister calls CPS and the police for everything. If you don't do what she wants, she's on the phone. If you have kids, you're fucked, because she's going to call CPS. She's going to make a bogus allegation. She's diagnosed schizophrenic. She's diagnosed narcissist. She's bipolar. She's a freaking psychopath, period. She abuses her own kids. Her own daughter ran off and burned off at 18. Went and got married and had a kid of her own. The week after her son was her own daughter's child was born, my sister called CPS on her own daughter, saying that she was molesting her 1-week-old son, because she was pissed off because my niece wouldn't let her see her grandchild, because she didn't want her baby to be around her mother, because her mother's a psychopath. But anyway, so we moved to Washington State in 2011. We were there from 2011 to October of 2018. Not one problem. We were happy. We were even friends. Like, our best friend was a foster mom. She lived right across the hall from us in the apartments we moved into. And she was our best friend. And she is one of the rare finds of foster moms. She is one of the ones that's in it for the children. She doesn't care about the money, because she had money of her own. She used her own money. Every once in a while, when she would have a couple of kids, she would request help. But for the most part, she used her own money. She was a very sweet woman, God-fearing woman. I loved her to death. She did everything in the world. She bonded with my daughter. She always did everything for, my kids. She would buy them gifts. She would take them places. I mean, she was the sweetest lady you could ever meet in your life. And she could even vouch for me. She could vouch for me. We didn't have not one problem the whole time we were there. Not one single problem. So we moved back to Texas because our landlord sold our house and it was just too expensive. And they had a Section 8 housing shortage in Washington during the time. Nobody wanted to take Section 8 vouchers. I was low income. I'm poor. I am a poor person. And I'm not proud that I'm poor, but I'm not ashamed of it either. It's something that happens, And so we come back 2018. My mom had given me her house in Stanford, Texas. I don't care if anybody knows where I live either. And of course that pissed my sister off. Oh God, it made her so mad. And I didn't have no communication with my sister whatsoever the whole time we were in Washington. And when we came back, I was like, I am done with her. I don't want nothing to do with her. So we get here and there's squatters in the house. So we have to live with my mom in hers and her boyfriend's house until we got the squatters out of the house in Stanford. So we get the squatters out of the house in Stanford finally. But in October, I enrolled my kids. I enrolled my 3 younger ones in the school, and then my older one, of course, he went to high school. So my daughter, a month after we've gotten here, in November of 2018, decides to steal liquor from my mom's room. She stole her spiced rum, puts it in 3 water bottles, takes it to school, and divvies it out between 2 of her friends and herself. We get a call from the school. We go up there. She's denying it. Oh, I'm not on nothing. Blah, blah, blah. I'm not on anything. The school police officer was like, oh, she's on something. She's failed the sobriety test. We can smell it on her breath. We know she's on something. So I end up taking this. She almost killed both of her friends, by the way, with alcohol poisoning, and herself. She was 3 times over the legal limit. We took her into the hospital here in Abilene, where we were living with my mom, and even after we got the test back showing that she was 3 times over the legal limit, she denied it. No, I didn't drink nothing. Well, we got the proof right here, honey. You did drink something. So she got suspended from school. We wasn't even here a month, barely. So she gets suspended from school, and I ground her. She's grounded. You don't act like that. She does not know. My kids are not gonna be little juvenile delinquents. They're not going to be. I raised my kids to have respect, and I raised my kids to be responsible, and no, it's not going to happen. So she's suspended, and then in January of 2019 we finally get to move into the house out here in Stanford. I enroll my kids in the local schools over here in Stanford, so they went ahead and allowed my daughter to be enrolled, even though she was suspended indefinitely from the school that she was just in, well, for the remainder of the year. So they enroll her. And she's like, Mom, I want to play sports. So I'm like, okay, maybe that'll kind of get her back in the right direction. She's a very bright, beautiful, talented child. I mean, intelligent. She was taking AP college courses in middle school. So, I mean, she's very, very intelligent. And believe me, she can manipulate blood out of a turnip. She is one of those children. So, she gets enrolled, and I let her go and join sports. So she's, doing her track or whatever. Well, then my son comes home one day and says, Mom, I need to talk to you. So I said, okay. So he went and talked to me. He says, Vanessa's been skipping track practice. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, she's been skipping track practice. And she's been going to the park, meeting up with the boy, and they've been making out at the park. I'm like, she's 15. I will not allow my daughter to date or any of that until she was at least 17, 16 or 17, it's about reasonable age. She's too young. She was 15 at the time. No, 14. She was 14 at the time. And so I was like, oh, no. No. This ain't going to happen. So she comes home. I confront her about it. Oh, no, I'm not doing that. And so I'm like, okay, well, this is not going to happen. We're going to have a problem. Told her, I said, you're grounded. You're not to go to after-school track practice anymore. You're not to stay after school. I'm sorry. You done screwed that up. I don't need you going out there and, putting yourself in danger like that. You don't know nothing about that little kid. And I'm a protective mom. She was my only daughter. So a couple of weeks later, I catch her on Snapchat, sending half-nude pictures of herself to the same boy she was making out with at the park. She was in her bra and panties. There was a couple of them where she was in the bathtub just covered by bubbles. There was, taking pictures of her butt. I mean, I was like, no, this is not going to happen. She's like, oh, well, they get deleted. No, that's not the point. The point is not that they get deleted, The fact of the matter is that little boy has probably done put those pictures everywhere and sent them to all his friends, and there's no telling how many freaking sickos have gotten those pictures. I was like, so now you're the face of sickos, passing your photo around. And I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. This is the last straw. You're grounded. You're going to be homeschooled. You're losing your social media and your electronics. The only thing you're going to have is your school-issued computer to do your schoolwork. Period. You're done. You're not going to be able to go anywhere unless it's with me or your father. Because apparently you're not responsible enough to have that much freedom. You can't seem to contain yourself. And I even sat down and talked to her. What's the deal? Why are you acting this way? Are you? And she was irritated because we left Washington. We left all of her friends. We lived there pretty much her whole life. It wasn't nothing I could do about it. So she kind of was holding that grudge against me. Well, then when I grounded her and took everything away from her and put her in homeschool, she really got pissed off. So me and my husband became her enemy. She freaking hated us. I would make the rules and my husband would enforce them. We kind of went on equal grounding like that. And she did not like it. It pissed her off. Oh my God, she was like the little devil. And so then later on that year, in October of 2019, my sister randomly pops up at my mother's and is like, oh, I miss my sister. I'm sorry. I love her. I want to make a truce. Stupid me, gullible, I guess you could say. I was like, well, maybe it's better if I just, go ahead and make a truce with her. Maybe she won't mess with me. So I stupidly let her back into my life. Biggest mistake of my life. So things are going good. We're going to Six Flags, having a good old time. She come over for Thanksgiving. She come over for Christmas. January of 2019, she started acting strange. She acted strange from the beginning anyway, but she started favoring my daughter. And by this time, she'd already lost her daughter. Like, her daughter didn't want shit to do with her. Like, as far as her daughter was concerned, her mother died. She was abusive to her children. She was very, very abusive to her daughter. I mean, it was her only daughter, and she abused the shit out of her from birth. And so her daughter got tired of it, so her daughter left. When she turned 18, she left. She was like, no, I'm done. And then her mother called because her daughter ran and got married and had a baby. A week after her baby was born, her mother, my sister, called the CPS on her saying that she was molesting her son. He was a week old. because she was pissed off because her daughter wouldn't let her see her grandson. Her daughter said, no, you're dead to me. I don't want nothing to do with you. With all the abuse you inflicted on me all these years, I am done. I'm 18. I want to live my own life. F off, pretty much. So she starts favoring my daughter. It's all about my daughter. She wants to take my daughter here, take my daughter there. And she was jealous of mine and my daughter's relationship because we had a good relationship. We did. Regardless of the fact that she was angry with me because I've grounded her and all this other crap. We had a great relationship. She told me everything. She even told my husband everything. She had a good relationship with her dad, regardless of everything. But she was an angry child because we grounded her. We took away her ability to go to public school and be on social media. She was a selfie fanatic. If she could not put herself out there, she was not happy. And I think she had a little bit of low self-esteem. She didn't believe she was pretty, but she was very beautiful. She thought she was fat, and she wasn't. She was thick, but she was not fat. So we had a few issues with that, but it was normal teenage girl crap. They start getting older, like, oh my God, And it didn't, it didn't help the fact that I'm not girly. I'm very tomboyish. I'm not the girly girl type. So with me and her, our relationship was a little different. I would take her, we'd go get our nails done. We'd, go get our hair done. We'd still do girl things, go to the mall, whatever. But once we grounded her and took away that stuff, if you weren't saying yes, 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 yes constantly to that child, she was not happy with you. So January 2019, my sister started acting even weirder. Like, it became an obsession of her to want to keep my daughter with her constantly. It got to the point where she would take my daughter places without my permission. Like, she would leave Abilene without my permission. Or she would ask, can I have your daughter over for the night? And I'd be like, fine, whatever, So she would take my daughter overnight. And I'd tell her, okay, I'm coming to pick up my daughter. Oh, no, we're, not home, blah, blah, blah. So she would, find reasons to keep my child without my permission, And so February 14th of 2020, mine and my husband's anniversary, the start of all this hell. I ran out of cigarettes, okay? Cigarettes is the only thing that keeps me sane. It's my security blanket. It keeps me calm, and I got a lot of stress in my life. So I ran out of cigarettes, and I hadn't gotten paid yet. So I went to my daughter, and I asked my daughter, hey, can I borrow $5 from you? I'll pay you back when I get my check. My husband does not like that. He does not like the fact that I borrowed money from my children. He says no parent should borrow money from their children. Let the children have the money. And I was like, well, I'm going to pay her back. He's like, no, I don't like it. Don't do that. If it was for a bill, that'd be different. But it's for cigarettes. You don't need to borrow money from your kids for cigarettes. He is right, but, I was going to pay her back. That's the way I seen it. I was going to pay her back. So me and him got into a little bit of a, spit spat. We're kind of arguing in the kitchen over it. He's defending her, but she's so freaking angry at us because we grounded her and took away her life, line, the Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and all that crap. And her, social ability at school of, trying to one up the other girls because she had this jealous thing against girls. Why, I don't know. So she comes in the kitchen and she hears me and my husband arguing. And she's like, she tells her dad, you're just mad because I didn't give you $5 for beer. No, that wasn't the case. He was mad because I borrowed $5 from her. She didn't hear the whole conversation. So she starts yelling at him. And my husband's like, excuse me? Did you really just talk to me that way? So he follows her down the hallway and he stops her and he says, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are that you can come and talk to me that way? You don't disrespect me that way. I raised you better. So she starts cussing him. Fuck you, motherfucker, blah, blah, this, and, kiss my ass, you're a piece of shit, I hate you, and da-da-da-da-da. And because she's pissed off at him, because he grounded her, so he slaps her. He's stunned. He's like, did she really just cuss me in my face? So he slaps her. That pissed her off, so she cussed him again. So he slapped her again. And then she went to push past him because she was so damn pissed off. And he went to fall backwards over the freaking clothes basket. She snatched his hold of him. He she pushes him back again to pull away from him, falls and clips her elbow on the damn, what do you call it, door frame, which sends a whole whirlwind of other shit. My son sees her fall, doesn't know what's going on, so he comes out and he's like, oh shit, what the hell, blah, 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 and next thing you know, my daughter's running into the living room, and my husband's nephew's girlfriend, which was a freaking troll, they were staying with us, and she's like, oh my God, she took everything to the extreme. If you so much as got a paper cut, she was trying to call 911. So she's rushing my daughter out the front door. Oh my God, we need to call the cops. Hurry up. Yanks her over to my neighbor's house like a freaking psycho, and so they're over there. They call the cops. Cops show up, see the handprint on the side of my daughter's face. They're like, oh, this is child abuse. You're not allowed to discipline your children like that. This is child abuse. So they're like, we're calling CPS. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Here we go. Well, my husband, he's like, well, maybe I shouldn't have slapped her that hard. So he just kind of hands himself over to the police, admits his guilt, even though it was. So I freak out. I pass out because I'm so overwhelmed. They call 911. Ambulance shows up. Ambulance takes me. I'm out of it. By this point, I'm just like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. So my kids were here with my husband's nephew. The bitch. And I say the bitch because that troll, my husband's nephew, his girlfriend, the one that fucking, oh my God, freaks out about everything, she calls my sister. Biggest mistake. She calls my sister and tells my sister to come get my kids without my permission. My husband's nephew's like, no, I'm watching the kids. And she's like, no, I don't want to. So she calls my sister and tells my sister to come pick up my kids without my permission. Oh, I was pissed. Once I found out, anyway. I get to the hospital. I'm fucking out of it. Like, I'm drugged up. They've got me on all kinds of medications. My blood pressure's up. I'm freaked out. So, once I start coming down off the medication right before I left the hospital, I was still pretty loopy, but I was enough to where I could comprehend. I find out that my sister's got my kids. I'm like, nope. I told my sister, I said, you need to bring my kids home. Bring them home. You did not have my permission. Oh, well, I thought, blah, blah. No, you don't think. These are my children, not yours. Quit trying to take my children. So she's like, well, I'll bring them home. I'll follow y'all home when y'all go home. So we get home at about 7 o'clock in the morning. The next morning, Saturday, because it's the 15th, February 15th. So I get home and I'm waiting for my sister. She doesn't show up, so I message her. I'm like, where are my kids? Oh, well, we're taking them to eat and this and that and the other, and they're blah, 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 kind of excuses. I was like, no, I want my kids home now. Well, we'll be there. Still doesn't show up. She doesn't bring my kids to me until about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I was pissed. And then she gets here. She's like, I want to keep Vanessa with me, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no. She's like, why not? And I said, because she's my child. I said, because she's my child. And she needs to be home with her family, not with you. You are not her mother, so stop trying to act like it. Pissed her off, she's like, well, I don't think that this is right, and da-da-da-da-da. And then she starts talking shit about my husband. Well, he's going to pay for what he did. And I told her, I said, you know what? You've always had a vendetta against my husband. And it all started back when I first met him back in 2006. You tried to move in on him like you did my other boyfriends, and he wouldn't give you a time of day. You're just pissed off because he's the only boyfriend or only person that I've had in my life that relationship-wise, now we're married. We've been married since 2007, but she was pissed off because he wouldn't sleep with her. He wouldn't give her the time of day. He wouldn't let her do her little manipulation and bullshit. So it pissed her off. And she's had a vendetta against her. And he would tell her off, too. He would tell her. He'd put her in her place. She didn't like that. She didn't like anybody that would tell her off, put her in her place, or didn't allow her to have full control. So she didn't like my husband. My husband would always blunt and honest and tell her how he felt. And it pissed her off. She did not like my husband for that. And then plus it was me, when we decided we didn't want nothing to do with her, she blamed my husband. Oh, it's just him. You let him control you. He's an abusive person, blah, 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 blah. No, bitch. He just didn't want you in our fucking life because you're a fucking psychopath. So, my sister threatens me that day. Well, that same day after she had left, she called CPS because she was pissed off because I wouldn't let her take control of the situation. And calls CPS and says, my husband is molesting my daughter. Oh my God, my husband's molesting, I'm allowing my husband to molest my daughter. So CPS shows up February 18th. I knew they were coming because the police done said they were going to call. So this bitch, Kiana Alexander, shows up. And yes, she was a bitch. So she shows up to my house. And I'm like, okay, I'm expecting you. My husband slapped my daughter. He's in jail. He's getting 30 days in jail. I didn't know at the time he was getting 30 days. But I was like, he's in jail, so that should be the end of that. And she's like, well, we got another allegation, Saturday came in. An allegation came in Saturday afternoon that your husband's molesting your daughter. And I was just like, oh God, here we go. I was like, first of all, my husband's not molesting my daughter. I said, second of all, it was my sister. She's calling in because she's a vengeful piece of shit. Of course, I didn't say that. I just said that, it was my sister. She's calling in, she's angry with me. She's trying to get back at me. And so she's been doing this my whole life. And so she was like, well, I just need to talk to your daughter. So I let her question my kids. My daughter denied the allegations. My daughter was just like, what the hell? She didn't even know what was going on. She was just as confused as I was. So the lady says, well, I'm going to go talk to your husband and we're just going to close the case. So I said, okay. Well, the whole time I find out a week later, I find out my husband's going to get only 30 days in jail. No probation, nothing like that. Pissed my daughter off. She's like, he should get more for slapping me. I said, no, he shouldn't. I said, you shouldn't have been so damn disrespectful. Yeah, he shouldn't have slapped you that hard, but you shouldn't have been so damn disrespectful. And she's like, well, he should get more. He should get more. I don't think it's right that he's only getting 30 days in jail for slapping me. Oh, poor you, I'm sorry that everybody can't bow down to your feet. And it pissed me off, And my sister, God, she was taking advantage of it. And I was just like, you know what? And my sister, the whole time I was gone, or the whole time my husband was in jail, she would come to my house and she would find excuses, knowing that I was in a tough spot. She would take my daughter, and just my daughter, not my boys. Not my boys. She never once asked to take my boys. That caught me off guard. I was just like, what about your nephews? You don't love your nephews? You just love my daughter because she's filling that void because you pushed your own daughter away? Biggest mistake, I should have never let my daughter have anything to do with that psychopath. And so she was filling my daughter's head full of a bunch of crap. Well, CPS goes away. Okay, they go away. Well, then March 17th, CPS shows up again with more allegations of abuse, sexual abuse. But it's what I didn't know until after they took my kids, so a month later, after March 17th. But I want to say, March 5th, my sister asked to have my daughter over her house. My stupid ass allowed her to. Told her I'd be there on the 6th to pick her up. So at 3 o'clock on the 6th, I go to pick up my daughter. My sister, or I call and tell her I'm on my way. She's like, it's not even 3 o'clock yet. What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And I have the text messages, so it's valid proof. But anyway, so she comes up with these excuses, well, we're not even here. I took her to here, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Can she please stay another night? Da, 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 da. And I was just like, well, fuck. I'm going to drive all the way to Abilene, and she's not even going to be there. So I was like, fine. I was like, but she has to be home tomorrow, which was March 7th. She's like, okay. So March 7th rolls around, and I'm trying to pick up my daughter. And she's like, oh, no, we're not home. We're out in Clyde. We're over at my husband's mom's neighbor's house helping her on the farm. First of all, you didn't have my permission to do that. Second of all, I told you I was going to be here to pick up my daughter. She's coming up with all these excuses saying they're out of town. Oh, well, now we need to get something to eat. And, trying to put a guilt trip on me. I guess we're just going to have to wait, blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, I want my daughter there at 3 o'clock. If she is not there by the time I get to Abilene, we're going to have a problem. So I threatened her with the police, too. I threatened to call the police. I will call the police if you do not give me my daughter. So I get my daughter back. My daughter's pissed, by the way. She's like, why are you doing this? Why can't you just let me have fun? Da-da-da-da-da. Why are you taking away all the fun? Dad's in jail. What does it matter? I shouldn't be grounded anymore. She started wearing skimpy clothes that were very inappropriate. Too short, too little, talking back like I meant nothing, completely disregarded me. So she would call my sister and be like, Mom's being mean to me. She's not letting me do anything. She won't let me have social media. She won't put me in school and blah, blah, blah. So my sister calls me jumping my ass, telling me that I need to do this and I need to do that. Bitch, this is my daughter. I gave birth to this child. I had this child, not you. I raised this child, not you. You're the one that freaking spent your whole fucking entire life trying to destroy me and anything I had. So fuck off. So I find out March 7th, the day that when she was supposedly out in Clyde, she had actually taken my daughter to the Noah projects. On March 6th, the day before that, she took my daughter to the mall, bought her hundreds of dollars worth of shit. And then on March 7th, she took my daughter up to the Noah project with allegations that my husband supposedly grabbed her butt and boobs and was jacking off in her room. Okay, first of all, grabbing the butt and the boobs, my daughter and my sister, that happened to me and my sister as kids. Okay, our stepdad did that to us. He used to grab our butt and our boob. The whole masturbation thing, our cousin did that to us, and so did our older brother. My sister manipulated my daughter into using our childhood trauma as allegations, and she bribed my daughter. The day before she took my daughter to the Noah Project to make these allegations, she took her to the mall, and I have proof. But CPS didn't want to see none of this. So, March 17th, 3 days after my husband got out of jail on March 15th, my daughter was acting like everything was fine. Oh, Daddy, I missed you. I'm so sorry. Blah, blah, blah. We can fix this. Our blah, blah, back to the old. Everything was going good. March 17th, same bitch shows up to my house. Kiana Alexander with the Abilene Child Protective Services. We have allegations of sexual abuse. And I said, lady, didn't we already clarify this? My daughter already talked to you. She denied it. I denied it. Everybody denied it. Everybody has denied these allegations. Oh, no, she wasn't going to stop. Well, your daughter, she said that my daughter made outcries. And at the time, I didn't know about the whole March 5th, March 6th and 7th thing, And I was like, are you stupid? What do you mean my daughter made outcries? My daughter didn't make no damn outcry. Well, this and that and the other. Well, I refused to let her take my daughter. She wanted to take my daughter. I was like, no. She wouldn't place it with no family members. So I was like, no, you're not and amazingly, my daughter was already packed. She was already packed and ready to go, which caught me off guard too. So, and my sister miraculously knew about everything already. So, anyway, she calls the police, the Stanford Police Department, which are crooked people. These guys are crooked. They don't give a shit. So she calls Stanford Police Department. This little scrawny white cop shows up. He's like 4 foot tall, 100 pounds soaking wet. He starts telling me, you have to hand over your kids, blah, blah, blah. I don't have to do shit. And she was only going to take my daughter. Just my daughter. Not my boys, just my daughter. I was like, hey, you ain't taking my kids. Do you have a warrant? Do you have a court order? No, you don't. So get the hell off my property. You're not taking my kids. So he calls backup. And off duty, plain clothes, plain vehicle officer shows up. Has no right to be there. He's not even on duty. He's not even at work. So he shows up and he comes barreling out of the truck, telling my husband, because my husband was standing out on the front porch with me, telling my husband, I'm going to make sure I'm the one that arrests you. Motherfucker, you ain't arresting shit because my husband is innocent. He is innocent of these allegations. It's because of my psychopath. And I tried to tell them. I showed them evidence I had. I tried, to show them everything, but they didn't want to have it. Oh, no. So he threatens my husband, and